Hi, hello. This is really strange. I am trying to do an intro, but I'm just so out of practice with this whole talking to a camera thing. I haven't vlogged in about a year. Oh, sorry. So it's really strange. This is well overdue, and I'm very sorry. But thank you so much for supporting the channel. It just means so much to me, and especially at this moment where we, being me and my wife, we're trying to look at the next stages of our life, and that potentially like means moving city. So your support at the moment just means so much to me. It really is helping shape my life. So thank you for that. It just, you don't understand what it means to me. Even a dollar, it provides security in numbers. Just thank you. Let's just get into it. Let's stop rambling. I've only got a couple of questions, but there's some good ones. So the first one is from Margarita Molina, and she asks, so what's your background in music like besides these videos? Pretty non-existent. So I'm just a fan. I just like music. I've always liked music. You know, in the past 5 years or so, I've just enjoyed thinking about things much more critically, understanding why I like things. And that's really about it. I did like a year of trombone in grade 7. But then I had to change schools into high school, and we couldn't buy a trombone. So I dropped that, and I guess I tried to learn the guitar once, but I was awful at it. I'm not good at instruments. I just enjoy it. I just like it. And I just want to share that love and that passion, I guess. And I believe that music tells a story. I believe that music is a lot deeper than people give it credit for. And that's what I'm trying to share with people. But that's it, really. Jessica Fang asked, have you any thoughts on games that use music as a part of the gameplay, such as Crypt of the Necrodancer or Mother 3? And have you any unique recommendations for games like these? Now, I will be honest, I have not played either of those games, Crypt of the Necrodancer or Mother 3. I know how Crypt of the Necrodancer works, and I think it's a really cool gimmick. It's a gimmick, essentially. But I don't think gimmicks are a bad thing. Everybody needs a hook, a gimmick. Gimmick kind of has a bad sort of connotation with it, but you know, a lot of the time they're necessary, and it's fun. It's just fun to kind of lean into something and make something unique that nobody else has made. You have an excuse to make really great music that is more part of the game and brings more attention to itself, I guess. You know, I think we'll get to this a bit later with another question. But you know, music that tends to fade into the background and not be noticed a lot nowadays. But when you have games like that focus on music as a gimmick, it kind of allows it to shine a little, to have a spotlight little shine on it. And I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know how Mother 3 uses music in that way, but I'm planning on playing the Mother series at some point this year. For me, the interesting part comes from using those gimmicks in a more natural way. So the lessons that you learn from those very specific things. So Crypt of the Necrodancer is like, you know, using rhythm as a part of the gameplay, you know, doing things in beat and in time with the music. And that's cool, and that's fun, and that's great. I guess like I talked about it in my Ori video, where in my opinion, one of the levels was built in like around the music, and everything you did was kind of in beat, in rhythm with the background music. And to me, that's an interesting, a more interesting implementation of it, because it kind of removes you less. You know, it's less immersion breaking, I guess. But those games are fun, and there's nothing wrong with fun. Do I have any recommendations for games like those? No, because I haven't played a whole lot. But someone did recently recommend me a game. Well, I turned on my light. Chop chop. Someone did recommend me one of those games recently. It's called Sound Shapes, and it looks pretty cool. I watched the trailer and it looked awful, but then I watched some gameplay and it actually looked pretty good. It was just a rubbish trailer. The music will impact the actual level, so if a synth comes in, then a platform might form to the synth. If there's a beat going like that, and at every like fourth beat, a platform will explode and it sends you flying, or something like that. And then it had some actual, it had a Beck song that it used, so it's got some licensed music in it. Looks pretty cool. I haven't played it, but it looks to be a nice sort of evolution of that sort of idea. So if you play it, don't thank me, thank Post Mesmeric, because that was his suggestion to me, and I'm planning on getting around to that one soon. And Jessica Fang also asked, do you think there's any significant differences in how Japanese and Western composers have written or used music? Look, I do think there is a difference. What those differences are, you're asking the wrong guy. I have no clue. I don't know, on a compositional level, what makes something sound more Eastern and what makes something sound more Western. Next question is from James Huffman. Why is it that most big budget games tend to have uninteresting music without themes, motifs, or interesting melodies? Good question. So that is the big unanswerable question of our generation. It's not really. There are good reasons for it. A lot of directors, a lot of people in general tend to think that music shouldn't be noticed as such. I guess it's a fair enough opinion to have. I'm not one to judge if that's the sort of style that you want, if that's the sort of thing that you appreciate. But I think they don't give enough credit. Yeah, there's this idea, especially in Hollywood and film, that it's just meant to kind of score the underlying emotions. It's not meant to be noticed. It's just meant to do its job. And if it's noticed, then it's kind of removing you from the immersion or something. That translates over into games. The big budget AAA games are becoming more and more like Hollywood films. And you look at God of War, who the composer is Bear McCreary. I haven't actually listened to the God of War soundtrack, so I've got no clue what it sounds like. But he is a film, a TV mainly, actually TV composer. So we're getting more people coming over from those traditional medias, film and TV medias, into composing games as well. So that's playing an influence. But the other thing for games are unique in one way. For this is that it's the problem of the player, because the player is unpredictable. The player can hang around in an area and the music needs to loop. A big sort of melody can get pretty annoying when it loops. So they had to be very careful, back in the day, that it's catchy, but it's not super annoying. But also nowadays, it's more about dynamic music. What might take one player 10 seconds, it might take another player 30 seconds, it might take them a minute, it might take them an hour, whatever. But the point is, they will have to transition to a different action or something. When a player chooses to do something, will be totally different to any other player, and the music needs to react at that exact moment. And you can't, if there's an interesting sort of melodic line that's happening, you can't just break that in the very middle and it sound okay. It's gonna be messy. So something more of an ambient sort of drone, it doesn't really matter when you cut that drone in half and transition to another drone, or even a proper sort of melody fragment or something like that. It doesn't really matter, because especially if it's covered up by an explosion or some other sort of noise, you're not going to notice so much that change. So yeah, dynamic music proves to be very difficult to put in really good melodies. And obviously I think the other thing is that indies tend to do it a bit more. I think because A, it's not as bombastic, typically the sort of stuff that they're doing, but B, they spend more time on the projects. Oftentimes indies will get composers on much earlier than a big AAA company will. And they're able to put more time and effort into the music and making it work and seeing it in the game. Whereas a lot of times the big companies, it's kind of the game's already made, just fit the music into it, basically. So I think the more that we get composers on early, on those big game companies, the more they can work the music in to the actual like core and fabric of the game, and hopefully the more melodic sort of stuff that we can actually get. There's one final question from Kara Zhang, and she asks, so the question is, what is your dream job? And that is a very cheeky question. Because when I asked this question, I was talking about applying for a dream job and getting an interview for a dream job, and she's asking about what that was. So, story time, bit of context about everything that's kind of gone on. So we've got this national broadcaster called the ABC, government funded, taxpayer funded. It's like the BBC, but Australian ABC. And they had a show on there called Good Game, and it was a show about video games, but it was excellent. It was amazing. They did like 5 to 10 minute reviews on games, but they were like incredibly in depth, better than anything you kind of get online. Plus they had a TV sort of level of production values. It was amazing, and they were the first time I realized that games could be talked about in a serious sort of way. They did lots of really cool serious stuff. Like they did a whole episode on like representations of war in games. They did one on mental health in games. They did one about sex in games. So basically, they started an offshoot, like an online daily show called Pocket, Good Game Pocket, and it was run by this guy called Nick. And it was just like daily news and let's plays or first plays and that kind of stuff. But there was like 3 guys running it, and it was amazing daily content. It was, again, really thoughtful. The production values were like TV level production values for a daily online show by 3, maybe I think 4 guys. And that really inspired me to kind of work hard on this whole online video thing, that it can be done, that high production values, like interesting, thoughtful discussion about games can actually happen online as well. And this was before I discovered the whole community doing everything. Sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted, but the point of all this is that one of the commercial TV stations approached the host of the online show and one of the hosts of the actual show, Steph, to do their own show about games and esports, and there would be a huge online part to that as well. And they decided to take up this offer, and then ABC canned that other show, which was a dumb move. And so Nick and Steph went to Channel 7 and they made their own show called Screenplay. They were my 2 favorites, so I was really hyped that these 2 who were really influential to me were going to start their own thing. That started in June of last year, and then at the beginning of this year they were advertising that they had a position for a video editor available, and I'm like, this is perfect, especially because as I mentioned before, my wife and I are planning to move down to Sydney soon, and this is a job in Sydney, and I was like, it's kind of all lining up. This would be a perfect job for me, with people that I respect, in a field that I enjoy and love, and with some, like, I've got some kind of legitimate experience in video editing. Nothing like proper for TV or anything, but I know my way around Premiere, and they wanted someone who worked in Premiere, and yeah, so I was like, I actually had a chance at this. I felt, and as a fan as well, they wanted someone who was kind of part of the community already. I got an interview, and I was only like one of, I think, 6 people who got an interview, and they asked of me an editing task, which I did. It was like one of their first plays. I did that, but they picked someone else, and that was unfortunate, and that kind of led to everything that's happened this year. It wasn't that I was upset about. I mean, I was. It was more that I didn't know where to go from there. I didn't know what the future kind of held from that point on, where to go, because this was kind of the perfect opportunity for me. As I said, like, we wanted to move down to Sydney. All of my experience came like with games, and that doesn't hold a lot of weight outside of the game industry. I didn't know these people, but I was part of the community, and all my experiences like online video, and they were looking for someone who knew online video, and I know online video very well. It was more just like, I don't know where to go from here. If I can't get this opportunity, then I don't really know what other opportunities I can get. But I'm feeling better about it now, and I'm much more committed to making Game School Fanfare a thing. Taking this opportunity that you've presented me, that you've given me. Like, not everybody gets to do this. It's a very rare occasion that this gets to happen. And I'm so grateful for it, and I want to make the most of it, basically. So yeah, this is my very candid thoughts about everything that's going on. But that's really about it. And no, what I wanted to say, what I did say before I realized that it stopped recording, was that it was probably a good thing that I didn't get this job ultimately, because Screenplay actually got cancelled about a week or two ago. So, you know, that means that I would have been in Sydney, and I wouldn't have had a job. Sydney is one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in, and we would have been jobless. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that I didn't get the job. So yeah, that's the end. That's it. That's all I have to say. Sorry for being so like all over the place. Thank you so much for your support and making this possible, and even allowing me the thought of trying to make this into something. It's incredible. It just means so much to me, more than you'll ever realize. So thank you. Really, thank you. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Bye.